Hello everyone, it's Robin the Delta Crafter, and I want to thank you for joining me for another video on my YouTube channel. Today I've got some 2-for-1 cards for you for Valentine's Day. Let's go ahead and get started. We're going to be using a couple of items from Simon Says Stamp, and we're going to start off with this Mini Hearts Party die. This is an older die. It also comes in a star shape, but we're going to be using the heart dies for these cards today. We're also going to be using 3 different distress inks. We're going to be using Lumberjack Plaid, Picked Raspberry, and Kitsch Flamingo. So we're going to create a ink smushed background for us. So when we do this, we always want to come in with the lightest color first. So I'm smushing some of that Kitsch Flamingo down onto my glass mat. I've spritzed it with water, and now I'm just going to dab my paper into that ink until I'm happy with the coverage, and then I'm going to hit it with my ink tool to dry it. You do want to dry your ink in between applications of color, just so that you can prevent your colors from mixing when you add your next color. So I repeated that process with both the Picked Raspberry and the Lumberjack Plaid. And then I'm going to go back into Picked Raspberry one more time because I just wanted a little bit more of that darker pink color on my background that I've created. Hit it with the heat tool one last time, and then I'm going to place an acrylic block on top to help flatten out the paper before I move on to my next step. So while that's taking place, I'm going to go ahead and get my faux mini envelope die, and I'm going to go ahead and lay that out on my cardstock and get it taped down and ready to run through my die cutting machine. This is a new die from Simon Says Stamp, and I definitely can see this one being used throughout the year. So I decided that I wanted to add some little gold flecks to my background, so I'm going to bring in some Foundry wax in Gilded. I'm going to squirt a little bit of that onto my glass mat, add some water to it, and then I'm going to flick that onto my background. You see, I've placed my background into my splat box, and I'm just going to take another pen or brush and tap it against that paintbrush to get some nice gold splatters all over the background. I'm going to hit that with the heat tool one time and make sure that everything is dry before we're ready to move on to the next step. So what I want to do is create the effect of a cover plate by using this die twice. So I'm going to place it up at the top. I did trim down my background panel to make sure that it was about the size of the die. Then I'm going to use a piece of mint tape to create a hinge, and I'm going to hinge that die onto the background that we created just a little while ago. I'm going to take this over to my die cutting machine and run it through, and I'm going to also place that same die at the bottom with the hinge as well. So here you can see the results of cutting that running that die through the machine twice, once at the top and once at the bottom. So now we've instantly got a heart-filled or heart die cut background panel that we're ready to use. I've collected all of those little hearts in this tray, and I've also got the little mini envelope as well. So this is going to get us ready for the second card that we're going to be making. But we're going to go ahead and put the first card together by stamping a sentiment to go on the faux cover plate background that we created earlier. So I'm going to be using some sentiments from the Love You Greetings set from Simon Says Stamp. This is an older set. I believe this came out last year. I've used it a couple of times already. So I'm just stamping the Happy Valentine's Day sentiment using some of that Lumberjack Plaid ink because I want to make sure that everything coordinates. And now I've got a beautiful sentiment to add to my card. So I brought in that faux cover plate background that we created. I'm just going to place some dots of this Artiste glue all around the back of the panel in order to attach it to our card base. The card base is made with Accent Opaque 120-pound weight cardstock. And I believe I forgot to say earlier that the faux cover plate background was made with Nina Classic Crest Solar White cardstock in the 80-pound weight. So I'm attaching that faux cover plate background to the card base and just place an acrylic block on there to kind of make sure everything secures nicely. We need to pop up the sentiment so that it stands out a little bit from our background. So we're going to just add some foam tape to the back of that sentiment, and we're going to just place that on our in the middle of our faux cover plate background. So it's best to use some tweezers to get this aligned correctly or exactly where you want it to be. And once you do, you just press it down and that card will be almost complete. I was just about to say complete, but I did decide to amp up the gold on the card by adding a few gold embellishments. These are some gold pearls from Studio Katia. So I'm just going to select a few and add those to the sentiment panel. I'm using that artiste glue once again to secure those gold pearls to the panel, and that once I do that, that makes this card complete. So now we're going to use all of those hearts that we had left over from our faux cover plate background, and we're going to use those with the faux mini envelope that we also die cut earlier. But before we do that, we need to go ahead and stamp our sentiment onto this red cardstock. I'm going to be using the Hero Arts Unicorn White ink because I want to stamp this sentiment in white ink. This is also a sentiment from that Love You Greetings stamp set from Simon Says Stamp. And I did go ahead and stamp that sentiment 3 times. This ink is a pigment ink, which means it's thicker and it takes a little while longer to dry. So I did go ahead and hit that with my heat tool to speed up the process. So now we're going to actually make the envelope, which is really simple to do. There are score lines that the die creates on the die cut, and you're just going to fold one, or if you want both flaps, you can go ahead and fold both of them into the middle and have them meet up, and then you'll see you've created an envelope. So I wanted my that flap to be adhered down, so I just put a dab of glue on, that artiste glue again. Just going to bring in those tweezers to hold it down until the glue dries. Now I'm kind of figuring out exactly where I want the envelope to be on the card panel, and I've also secured that down with that same artiste glue. Put an acrylic block on top of that to add some weight while I go in and start selecting my hearts. So that die that we use, that heart party die, it creates 3 different sizes of hearts. So I've kind of picked out one that I want to be like a seal on my envelope, and then I took the other ones and kind of sorted them into the 3 different sizes. And now I'm going to have those those hearts looking like they're coming out of the envelope, like you've opened a love letter and all this love is flying out of the envelope. So I'm just going to go in and place some different hearts all over this panel until they just cascade all the way up to the top of the panel. The best way to ensure that your hearts stay exactly where you position them is to use a piece of press and seal to go back over the hearts and pick them all up at the same time. This makes quick work of being able to apply some liquid adhesive to the back, and then you can replace those hearts exactly back in the same place where you had them originally. You need to just press down on their hearts to secure them to the paper, and then you want to slowly pull that press and seal paper back because there's a lot of little moving parts here, just to make sure that you don't pull anything up, don't rip your paper or anything like that. Just go slow, and if you have a tool that you can use to hold the hearts in place, that's even better as you pull the press and seal paper back. So I'm just going to apply a little pressure to all of these hearts with an acrylic block, and we're just about done. So I wanted to go ahead and pop up this panel because right now it's got a little bit of dimension, but not a whole lot. So we're going to add some dimension by putting some foam tape on the back of the panel, and that's also going to help us secure the panel to our card base. And once we've got that into position, this card is complete. I decided not to add any gold pearls to this card because there was a lot already going on with all the little mini hearts all over the place. So let's take a close look at this card now that it's complete. Because these are 2-for-1 cards, you could easily make a set of these or a set of 6 of these and give them to a friend to give out for Valentine's Day. I want to thank you all for joining me for another video on my YouTube channel. If you have enjoyed it, please consider giving the video a thumbs up and subscribing to the channel. I made a second set of cards using a lighter color palette, so this is mainly pinks that was used for this card. Let me know in the comments below which set you like, the darker, more red cards or the pink ones. You can always find me on Instagram and Facebook at The Delta Crafter, as well as on my website, thedeltacrafter.com. I'll leave a couple more videos that you may be interested in linked for you at the end. Until next time, everyone, enjoy!